All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Mokakadash, and Heavenly Father, true name is Yahweh, and His only begotten Son, Bahashem, in the name of Hamashiach, Yahweh Shai. Those are the true names in ancient Paleo Hebrew. The Lashdash Holy Tongue, and I say Barakathon to the elders and apostles, Wa'akim, Wa'akwaf, and I say Shalom. And this is a sit down lesson of the World War Three. Yeah, World War Three news updates as of March the 2nd, 2026, on this Monday night. And as we've been seeing, the rise of tensions been heating up between the Russia-Ukraine situation and the European Union and NATO versus Belarus and Russia. It says March the 2nd, 2026, and reads from RT.com. Moscow warns of warning of a NATO buildup in the Arctic. It says the bloc has hindered Russia's operation in the Spitsbergen archipelago. The Russian envoy to Norway has said NATO is attempting to curb Russia's freedom of navigation in the Arctic. It says because we've been having tense heating up over in the Black Sea as well too, the Arctic Sea and the Black Sea, especially between United Kingdom of their armies versus Russian armies. Especially that happened, what was that, like a couple weeks ago? You had the Prime Minister Starmer mentioned that he had sent some stealth troops over there, I believe over there in the Black Sea or the Arctic Sea last time I checked. So that shows an indicator that we've been seeing, the on and on back and forth tensions been heightened and increasing between, the European Union, NATO versus Russia and Belarus. It says NATO is attempting to curb Russia's freedom of navigation in the Arctic. Moscow ambassador to Norway, Nikolai Koroskinov, has said. It says in an interview with the Azovstia on Monday, Koroskinov argued that Norway was seeking to squeeze Moscow out of the Spitsbergen archipelago, where Russia, the only country besides Norway to have carry out economic activities there for decades. SS has not an intention of scaling back its operation. It says Norway territory of the Spitsbergen has a Russian presence in the form of the Arctic clay gold mining company and the mining community of the Parkslandberg. Russia enjoy equal right to engage in commercial activities on the archipelago along 13 other nations, according to the 1920 Shatelabar Treaty, which also made the territory demilitarized free trade zone. While the recognizing Norway as a sovereignty over it, the Kroskenappo said Oslo was deliberately hindering of the Arctic operations and curbing movement and economic activities in part of the archipelago, while pointing to a NATO driving military building up marked by frequent visits in Norwegian aircraft and warships. It says he warned that the bloc members possess significant naval capabilities and has shown that readiness to use to curb a freedom navigation in the breach of an international law. It says, according to the diplomatic, NATO is moving a partial or full naval blockage of Russia as the military bloc has boosted its footprint in the ballistic and Arctic regions and step up patrols under the pretext of protecting the areas from alleged Russian threat. It says Korshkonovo accused NATO of escalating tensions and fueling confrontation frenzy in the Arctic. It says insisting that Russia posed no threat and has no interest in the conflict with Norway or other NATO members, but warning that Moscow will not leave threats created for us without a adequate response. He said that NATO is, including Norway, had in recent years rapidly increased its military presence and operational activities in the North, arguing that under the frankly far-fetched pretext of a Russian threat, a new command structures and base was multiplying across the Nordic region like mushrooms after the rain. It says the development comes as Denmark has bolstered its military presence year in and around Greenland since the start of the year, deploying additional ships and aircraft and personnel as Arctic security tensions mount. The screens following the threats by the U.S. President Donald Trump to seize the autonomous Danish territory. For Russia foreign minister says NATO expanding Arctic footprint is destabilizing, posing a direct threat to national security. Get to the Ezekiel 38th chapter, right? Because Russia feel like they have a right to defend themselves and their sovereignty of free sailing through that region, in that Arctic region. And they seen, according to reports, that potentially that NATO is posing that threat towards them. For them having free sailing through that Arctic in that Arctic region. Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 4, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and will bring thee forth in all thy army, horse and horsemen, all of them clothed, a source of armor, even a great company, buckler, hilts, swords, all of them swords. Right, because Russia, they're going to be, the Heavenly Father is putting hooks in back to jaws as Russians, as the prophet Ezekiel mentioned. So Russia, they still going to be in that warlike mindset. Now they open to dialogue, try to ease the tensions, but Russia, they still going to be in that warlike mindset at the same time. Because, everything is in control by the Heavenly Father. The goings of men is of the Heavenly Father. And at the same time, the Heavenly Father, he's a man of war as well, too. And he's a righteous, balanced power. But the Heavenly Father is definitely going to continue to put that warlike mindset in these Russians. While we're seeing, Russia-Ukraine situations intensifying. And then we're seeing, NATO versus Russia that's heating up, even though it's been on and off back and forth. Now it's starting to spark up once again, especially over there in the Arctic Sea. Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 5, right over there in, I would say, the northern flank and the eastern flank. Because, throughout the years and previously, you've been seeing military building up from NATO and not too far from the borders of Russia, their military building up. As Russia been sending warnings to NATO, throughout the years, if they provoke Russia or try to have a stoppage of their areas over there for, free sailing through over that region, that Arctic, and over there in the Black Sea as well too. They have a right to defend themselves, economically and military. So that shows that's an indicator we potentially might see these economical wars and these nuclear tensions heating up between the European and NATO versus Belarus and Russia. Ezekiel chapter, so I'm going to leave it at that. So as it says again, Moscow warns of a worry of a NATO buildup in the Arctic. So those are signs of what you call wars, rumors of wars. I got that Matthew 24th chapter. This is Matthew chapter 24. In verse 6, if ye should hear of wars, rumors of wars, right? That's what we're hearing, wars and rumors of wars. So we're seeing these political wars, geopolitical wars, economical wars, trade wars, tariff wars, and these nuclear tensions are heating up between these nations, especially Russia versus Ukraine. And ye should hear of wars and rumors of wars, right? NATO versus Russia, Belarus, Russia together versus NATO, the European Union. Ye should hear of wars and rumors of wars. China versus Taiwan, China versus Japan, China versus the Philippines, North Korea versus South Korea, Japan, United States. That's what we're seeing. So throughout the years, it's been increasing. Now it's starting to build up now, so more than ever. So we definitely seen these wars, rumors of wars heating up. You got Iran versus the Israel Defense Force, arch nemesis, arch enemies, the pro-Iranian groups. going against the Israel Defense Force throughout the Middle East, which is Western Asia. United States armies versus Iran. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. So tensions are heating up over there in Iraq, Syria, the Gulf states. Over there in the Middle East, throughout that whole region. Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, the Gaza Strip, West Bank, Palestinian territory, the Golan Heights, northern Israel, southern Israel, central Israel, Tel Aviv. And so it's really heating up throughout the whole region. As you got the proxy groups using airstrikes and those bases over there in Saudi Arabia, over there in Qatar, over there in Bahrain, and different places over there in the Gulf region. So Jordan got hit. So that shows that it's really heating up as we speak, as if entering this fourth day between the intensity heating up between, the Israeli Defense Force and the United States armies versus the proxy groups of Iran and versus Iran as well too. It says, ye should hear of wars and rumors of wars. Right, so on a daily basis, we see an uptick of wars and rumors of wars. And ye should hear of wars and rumors of wars. And Iran, as of recently, using a huge barrage of missiles in these different military bases in these in the Gulf region, in those Arab regions, Arab countries, in the Gulf region. Tensions have really been heating up the Israel Defense Force, going against the Houthi rebels, going against the proxy groups, going against the pro-Iranian groups, going against Iran. Ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See, there should be not trouble for all these things must first come to pass, but the end's not yet. Right, so it's going to come to pass, but not going to end just yet. Matthew chapter 24, in verse 7. For nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. Right, so that's what we're seeing. So nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places. So we're seeing these famines and pestilence plagues and earthquakes in diverse places. And this is Luke 21 in verse 25. And there shall be signs in the sun, in the moon, and the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations will perplexity where it's born. Right, so we're seeing the blood moon is about to show forth on March the 3rd. That's what you see signs of the sun, and the moon, and the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations, which we see in the world today, with the protests, uprises, nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom, moderate ruler against moderate ruler. That's what we're seeing. These are signs that Yahushua spoke about. It's going to continue to increase. So Matthew 24 verse 7 once again. For nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom, which goes to Ethnos, and there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places. Matthew 12 and verse 25. And Yahushua, it says, Yahushua knew their thoughts. He say unto them, every kingdom divided itself shall be brought to desolation, or city or house divided itself shall not stand. Why? So we're seeing every kingdom or house or nation be divided itself should not stand. It's going to be brought to desolation. That's what we're seeing. It says an oil tanker attacked off coast of U.S. ally. It says, right, this is from RT.com as of March the 2nd, 2026. It says, world news is that oil tankers attack off the coast of the U.S. ally. The vessel is third to be targeted in the region since Washington and Israel launched. It says a strikes on Iran. A crew member has been unalived from the attack in that oil tanker off the coast of Oman. Local media reports on Monday citing that the defense ministries, the vessel is in the third to be targeted in the region since the U.S. and Israel launched strikes on Iran. Massive bombing and strikes on Iran began on Saturday, unaliving the supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the senior officials, and hundreds of civilians. Iran has responded with missiles and drones on Israel and U.S. bases. While the escalation had disrupted a a shifting in the cruise Great Hormuz Passage. It says the Marshalls Island flag oil tanker MKD, the VYOM, was attacked by an explosive-laden remotely operated boat when it was sailing 52 miles off 95 kilometers off the coast of Matchak government, according to Omani authorities. It says the attack resulted in a fire and explosion in the main engine room, with one fatality and remaining 21 crewsmen evacuated at attic. Video circulating on social media shows that the ship particularly engulfed in thick black smoke. Early in the day, the UK Maritime Trade Operations Center reported that two vessels had been targeting projectiles in the United Arab Emirates, one near East Sharjah and the other near the Maniak Skrek, which the crew said to be safe in fire controls. Located between Iran and Oman, the Strait of Hormuz handles about a fifth of the world's seaborne oil and gas shipments. And although Iranian authorities said that it remains open to tankers, media reports suggested that the shipping is largely paused due to the strike risk. And it says Reuters reported on Sunday that 150 tankers, including cruise and LEG vessels, are anchored Gulf waters outside the Strait of Hormuz, with dozens of more stationary beyond the checkpoint. Insurers have warned ship owners will cancel policies and raise coverage costs for vessels in setting the Gulf and the Strait, according to the broker's site by the Financial Times. Crude briefly surged to a 14-month high on Monday, jumping about 13% and topping around 82.37 per barrel. Meanwhile, European benchmark gas futures surged by around 50%, marking the biggest single-day movement since March of 2022. Luke 21, verse 25 says, "There shall be signs of the sun and the moon and the stars, and upon the earth expressive nations will perplex you as one." Right, expressive nations will perplex you as one. Now you got the Houthi rebels, and the Yemen is on board to help and aid assist, Iran, because they support, Iran, because the Houthi rebels, they've been supporting them, and then they are allies with them. They support them. So now they back on board once again. Because previously for the past 2 years you've been having anybody that's affiliated with the United States or the Great Britain. They're gonna target any oil tanker ship that's potentially affiliated with the United States armies or the Israel Defense Force armies. So the Houthi rebels, they back on it again. And then you've been having the Hezbollah using airstrikes and over there in Golan Heights, over there in Tel Aviv, over there in northern Israel, central Israel, southern Israel. So that's what you see, the aggressive nations with Black Sea Red War, right along with the wars and rumors of wars. So that's only going to intensify. It says, this is from Medvedev. It says March the 2nd, 2026, it reads, Trump regime change war could start World War III. Medvedev reports any conflict could be triggered. The former Russian president has warned. And that goes right along with that Ezekiel the 38th chapter. It says the U.S. President Donald Trump could set off a World War III with this criminal regime change operations. Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev has warned. In an interview with the TASS published on Monday, Medvedev, who now serves as a deputy chairman of Russian Security Council, was asked if World War III has already begun. It says technically no, but right, that goes into that Matthew's 24th chapter, Wars and Rumors of Wars. It says, technically no, but if Trump continued his insane course of criminal regime change, it would undoubtedly begin at any event could trigger any, he said. It says the attack on Iran is part of a broader war, it says, by the U.S. and its allies to maintain global dominance, he stated. Right, definitely trying to take resources from other countries, doing chain regimes, just like he did Venezuela, trying to do Iran the same thing. It says, but Iran is different. Iran is not Venezuela. I mean, of course, the United States and Israel Defense Force took out their, Iran's top leaders, of course, but Iran is not giving in, Hey, they doing the blaze of glory. Man, they targeting U.S. Allies in these Gulf regions over there in the different Arab countries that the United States got their soldiers stationed at. Over there in Oman, over there in Saudi Arabia, over there in Bahrain, and all these other areas they got military bases at. Over there in the Middle East and over there in the Gulf region. So Iran is not letting up, even though they might lost a huge losses previously and as of recently. But Iran was like, no, we ain't giving up. We ain't letting up. We're not giving up. It says, according to Medvedev, Trump made a grave mistake by unaliving Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, putting all Americans at risk. Yeah, because keep this in mind, because throughout the years, recently, once again, you had the pro-Iranian groups. They was like, if U.S. military bases, they are at risk of us using airstrikes once again against them, ballistic missiles and airstrikes. Because you got the pro-Iranian groups, they can target military bases in different parts of the Gulf region, which they recently did. And then target the Israel Defense Force, their military bases over there in the Golden Heights region. Because keep this in mind, previously, you had the Israel Defense Force. They warned that they was going to deal with a multi-front war if they was going to attack Iran. So in that sense, a couple of days ago, now it had happened. Now they on high alert because you got the pro-Iranian groups. They're going to be targeting their military bases over there in Golden Heights. The borders between Israel and Syria is definitely going to be an increasing hot zone area. So best believe, the Houthi rebels going to target Great Britain. Because I believe, what was that, yesterday? You had, I think, Britain of London, of their militaries. I believe they got hit with some drones from the pro-Iranian groups, I believe. And I believe they potentially might have responded back. So basically, the United States and the Israel Defense Force of their allies, basically anybody's a target, So best believe over there in the Mediterranean Sea in the Gulf region, it's going to be high escalation tensions heating up, and that's what we've been seeing for the past couple of days. So these are signs of wars. Rumors of wars are definitely heating up, especially the pro-Iranian groups going against the Israel Defense Force, United States armies, and Iran versus Israel Defense Force. So throughout that whole region, over there in the Middle East, Western Asia, the Persian Gulf, over there in the Mediterranean Sea and all those areas in the Gulf regions, tensions are only going to spark up. It says, according to Medvedev, Trump made a grievous mistake by unaliving the Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei. It says, putting all Americans at risk, right? Military armies and personnel at risk. That's why you had, I would say, the Israel Defense Force of the United States was telling the Trump administration, they had mentioned that earlier today, to have all military personnel to evacuate immediately because there's going to be more and more increasing imminent threats and imminent strikes from the pro-Iranian groups and the rebel groups going against the Israel Defense Force, the United States, and anybody that's affiliated with them. It says the late Ayatollah was the spiritual father of nearly 300 million Shiites, and now he's also a matriarch. It says, following his death, there's no doubt that Iran will triple its efforts to develop a nuclear weapons, Medvedev says. It says, I asked whether Iran can withstand the conflict and the unlives of its leaders. He said the cost of rebuilding will be high, but the Islamic Republic will succeed. If it's was that Joel the was that Joel the third chapter? Let the weak sound strong. Hey, so the proxy groups that's teaming up with Iran. Hey, so they really gonna increase. Hey, let the weak sound strong. That's what we're seeing. Right along with Elam and Ishmael, they teaming up together, going against the Edomites of the United States armies and the Edomites of the Israel Defense Force, their allies as well too. It says it requires a high degree of social consolidation, I would say, and the Americans have provided them with the constellation. He said, asked if Russia is at risk of being attacked. Many negotiations one day like it says one day like Iran was Medvedev's replied, there is only one guarantee that's will not happen. The US fears Russia and know the cost of a nuclear conflict. Wow, that goes right along with that Ezekiel 38 chapter. Yeah, the reason why he said that statement because Russia got basically good nuclear capability as much as the United States. And if the American armies cross that line with Russia, hey, Russia got nuclear capability as well too. They got missiles just as much as Russia. Russia got more missiles and nuclear capability just as Russia as the United States. And that makes perfect sense because I would say last month, February the 5th, the nuclear arms treaty has expired between Russia and the United States. So they've been having talks, I would say like 3 weeks later. Ever since then, it's been a collapse. So that gives Russia a green light to have more nuclear capability and more upgrade there. And it's not going to be what you call that. It's not going to be limited. It's going to be unlimited of nuclear capability increasing. And keep this in mind. I believe it was like last week, Vladimir Putin made that press conference. He was saying that he's going to have his nuclear arsenal globally. So that falls right along with Ezekiel the 38th chapter. You have Ezekiel chapter 30 verse 4. And I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws. I will bring thee forth in all thy army, horse and horsemen. All of them clothed for all sorts of armor, even a great company of shields, all of them handling swords. Right, so Russia is going to continue to be in that warlike mindset. Ezekiel chapter 38 verse 5. It says Persia, Ethiopia, Libya, with all of them with shield of helmet. Right, so the Persians are Elam, Ethiopia, the Cushites, Libya, with all of them with shield of helmet. Libya of Put, all of them with shield of helmet. Right, so these are the same nations that Russia is an economical partnership with and military partners with. Ezekiel 38 verse 6. Okay.
Thankfully, there's Poise. Improved pads instantly absorb wetness and lock in odor. Try Poise. Why pay more for longer days of fragrance from your plug? Switch to Airwick plug-ins and fragrances. The longer-lasting scent and the best value per day. Some plug-ins only last 50 days per refill, while Airwick refills now deliver fragrance for up to 70 days. Airwick is infused with pure essential oils and features anti-aging technology to keep your home inviting from the moment you plug it in. The longer-lasting scent and the best value per day.
This is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 38, verse 6. It says, Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmor of the north quarters, all his bands with people with him.
That's what Sam had.
Yeah, that's what they
He was long they want to touch. There's got another one that's supposed to go up, shut up.
Right.
He got his own muscle. I came from someone one on this side back.
Right.
So I was check. That's crazy. This whole thing, since that money is big. I know it wouldn't like no.
Right.
That's
All right, Marcel, man. It's the book of Ezekiel 38 verse 6. Gomer and all his bands, the house of Tugmah of his new quarters. His people with them. Right, because Gomer was modern day Turkey. Because even though Turkey is part of NATO, but Turkey still supports, the Shiites and the Muslims and the pro-Iranian groups, and still supportive of, now they have a full support of Iran now after what that happened, a couple of days ago, because you've been having throughout the years and recently, you've been having Turkey been condemning the Israel Defense Force because their unrighteous decrees, what they've been doing, over there in Western Asia. So, because you're gonna have Turkey still gonna be going against the Israel Defense Force, of their actions that they've been doing throughout the generations and until now. It says Gomer and all his bands, the house of Tugmah of the North Quarters, all his many people with the right, because you still got military bases over there in Iraq and Syria of Turkey. So best believe Turkey of their armies, they're going to coincide right along with Russia going against the Israel Defense Force. Ezekiel chapter 38 verse 7. Be thou prepared, prepare for thyself and all thy companies that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. Right, so Russia is going to be a guard to these nations, Iran, Ethiopia, Libya, Turkey, going against the United States armies and their allies. Ezekiel 39 and verse 1. It says, therefore thou son of man, prophesy against God, say, thus saith Yahweh Shemashai, behold, I am against thee, O God, chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. Verse 2, and I will turn thee back and leave but the sixth part of thee, and I will cause thee to come up from the north parts, and bring thee upon the mount of Israel. Verse 3, and I will smite thy bow at thy left hand, and cause thy arrows to fall at right hand. This is Isaiah chapter 17, verse 1. Now you got the pro-Iranian groups on board to fully support, the Israel Defense Force. Now, expect to see high tensions heating up between the pro-Iranian groups going against the Israel Defense Force, especially a cross-border conflict. The Golan Heights, over there in Israel, over there in Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Gaza Strip, West Bank, especially like the southern part. I would say the southwestern part of Syria, the southeastern part of Syria, the deep southern part of Syria, because you got heavy proxy groups over there and then pro-Iranian groups. They on standby. Now they joined in the war with the situation, with the Israel Defense Force and the United States doing their campaigns quite a couple of days ago, as is entering this fourth day of war. Regional tensions are really heating up throughout the Western Asia and over in the Persian Gulf and the Gulf region. Now, that gives the pro-Iranian groups and rebel groups teaming up together with Iran, getting a green light to go against the Israel Defense Force. Isaiah 17 verse 1, the burden of Damascus. Behold, Damascus is taken away from being the city, and it should be Israel heat. Right, so it's going to be taken away from being the city, should be Israel heat. So best believe you're going to have a hostility, cross-border conflict once again heating up between the pro-Iranian groups and the rebel groups going against the Israel Defense Force, especially particularly near Damascus and over there in Damascus. Isaiah 17 verse 9. It says, in that day shall his strong cities bear as for shaken and brought in the uttermost branch, which they left because the children of Israel should be desolate. Right, so that land's going to be desolate because you're going to have high tensions heating up between the Israel Defense Force, which they dealing with a multi-front war, and they still on high alert because you're going to have military building up from the Israel Defense Force and more military deployment and more heavy escalations heating up throughout that region. So best believe they're going to have high tensions over there in Lebanon, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and definitely over there in Syria. So this is a future prophecy that we see in the making of Isaiah 17, verse 1 through verse 9. It says, as it says again, from March the 2nd, 2020, March the 2nd, 2023, March the 2nd, 2026, it reads once again. Trump regime change wars could start World War III. Medvedev has said any conflict could trigger, the former Russian president has said. So Prophet Joel chapter 3, verse 9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, right? The armies of the other nations. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, right? As the prophet Joel is mentioned. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up, right? So this is what the prophet Joel was mentioned, that the Heavenly Father is going to wake up the mighty men of these armies of nations, and let all the men of war draw near, let them come up, right? As they're being gathered up over there in Western Asia, throughout that whole region. Joel 3 verse 10, beat your plowshares and swords and the poniards and the spears, not the big sound strong, right? The Houthi rebels, pro-Iranian groups and proxy groups settling their differences, teaming up together, going against the Israel Defense Force throughout that whole region. Yep, let the weak sound strong. And this is Revelation 11 verse 14, and I'm going to close it out. Revelation 11 verse 14 reads, the second will pass, behold, the third will come quickly. Right, so the second will pass, behold, the third will come quickly, Armageddon, Armageddon 1. So with that, hopefully this World War III news updates was edifying as of February. I'm not February. I meant to say March the 2nd, 2026, on this Monday night. So with that, I would like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai Ba'ashem, Wakar Kadash, and the Heavenly Father. True name is Yahweh, and His only begotten Son Ba'ashem. In the name of Hamashiach Yahweh Shai, those are the true names in the ancient Paleo Hebrew of the Lashon Kodash, the Holy Tongue. And I say Barak Thumb to the elders and apostles, Wa'akim Aqua. To the next time, say Shalom.